Buenos dias from Greenway Parks. This is the Rorschach Argentina update from the 17th of April 2025. A quick summary of what's going down in Argentina. On Friday the 11th, Luis Caputo, the economy minister, surprised everyone by revealing that Argentina would remove its currency controls, also known as the Cepo cambiario, the following Monday, allowing people to freely buy dollars while adopting a new exchange rate band between 1,000 and 1,400 pesos per dollar. On Monday the 14th, the dollar opened at 1,250 pesos and traded as high as 1,350 on some platforms. Banks scrambled over the weekend to adapt their systems as people can now buy dollars freely and companies can send dividends abroad, but only on profits made from 2025 onward. The way the rate band works is that the central bank will step in only if the peso hits the limit, which currently stands at $1,400, but will widen gradually each month. Still, economists expect the peso to weaken by at least 15%, possibly pushing inflation higher in April. On Monday the 14th, importers also gained immediate access to foreign currency, and the previous 30-day waiting rule will no longer apply. Neither will the mandatory parking period, the rule that forced people to hold certain bonds for a minimum number of days before selling them. However, a 30% tax surcharge still applies to spending abroad. This includes trips and credit card purchases in foreign countries. While dollar savings and transfers won't carry that extra tax anymore, any tourism-related expenses will. To avoid the 30% fee on card payments, users can still choose to pay off their statements in dollars instead of pesos. So, why did the end of the Cepo come faster than previously anticipated? Because Argentina finally secured a $20 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, with $12 billion landing right away, giving a major shot of confidence to President Milei. Another $2 billion will be available in June, depending on the first review of the program. At first, this triggered speculation about possible devaluation, so, right after the IMF's approval, the central bank dumped $400 million to stop the peso from sliding further, making its biggest single-day intervention since March. However, Caputo said the funds will help rebuild central bank reserves and push forward the fight against inflation. Analysts warn inflation risks still loom, and everything now depends on Milei's team delivering real economic results. The news of the end of the Cepo has had ripple effects across international news outlets. The Economist published a piece analyzing Argentina's history of failed IMF agreements and the future of Milei's economic strategy. To read the full article, follow the link in the show notes. After loosening currency controls, President Milei urged soybean producers to sell their crops right away. With harvest season underway, Milei needs the dollars from soy exports to boost central bank reserves, but farmers have been hesitant to sell, making this the slowest forward-selling pace in 10 years. To speed things up, Milei temporarily lowered export taxes, especially for soy, the country's top export, but warned that rates will rise again after June. The headlines about the Cepo distracted people from noticing that inflation spiked again in March, with prices climbing 3.7%, making the second month in a row of acceleration and the steepest jump since September. The annual inflation rate now sits at 56%. With an 8.6% rise in 2025 so far. The main culprits behind the surge were sharp increases in education costs, which jumped 21% as the school year kicked off, and a nearly 6% rise in food and drinks, especially vegetables and meat. On top of everything that happened this past week, Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, landed in Argentina on Monday the 14th for high-level talks with officials and business leaders, aiming to show full backing for President Milei's economic overhaul. After meeting with Bessent, Milei announced that Argentina is ready to move forward with a trade agreement with the United States, calling it a win-win that would improve access to better goods and services for both countries. On that note, Xanadu Orsi, the Uruguayan president, believes that Donald Trump's push for higher U.S. tariffs is putting pressure on Europe to speed up the long-stalled EU-Mercosur trade deal. Mercosur, the regional trade bloc that includes Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay as full members, is for the most part eager to move forward, but the EU continues to review the deal legally. They hope to finalize it before year's end, though internal disagreements and environmental regulations still pose challenges. Despite Milei's strong ties to Washington, Argentina secured a 12-month extension on a $5 billion portion of its currency swap agreement with China. The renewal is part of an $18 billion deal originally sent up to boost Argentina's reserves and finance imports during hard times. Even though Milei has toned down his anti-China rhetoric since taking office, he still leans pro-U.S., leaving the door open to possible American credit support, though nothing is confirmed. Since we're on the topic of credit, the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank, or IDP, have thrown their support behind Argentina's economic overhaul with new funding packages. The World Bank pledged $12 billion over 3 years, aiming to back public and private sector reforms, with immediate funds set aside for upgrading tax systems, improving education, and building infrastructure. Meanwhile, the IDP committed $10 billion, split between state-run projects and private investments. Amid all this, Argentina's top union leaders from the CGT, the country's largest labor union, called the general strike on Thursday the 10th a major victory, marking the third large-scale protest against Milei's economic agenda. Leaders criticized the government's austerity push, saying it's shrinking real wages and hitting retirees and low-income groups the hardest. The union reaffirmed its stance. Argentina cannot keep letting prices rise while wages lag behind. The government brushed off the protest, saying it was driven by political interests from union leaders linked to previous governments. Meanwhile, the northeastern Santa Fe province kicked off the election season. Maximiliano Pucharo, the current Santa Fe governor, scored a solid win, leading the vote to elect delegates for a long-awaited provincial constitutional reform. Pucharo's coalition, which is backed by the Unión Cívica Radical, the PRO, and socialists, beat the Peronists by nearly 20 points, while Milei's La Libertad Avanza trailed in third. As local elections in Buenos Aires City get closer, some players are making their moves. Manuel Adorni, the presidential spokesman, announced he'll step down in December after running for a seat in Buenos Aires City Legislature. Adorni brushed off criticism about balancing his campaign and government role. He took aim at Mauricio Macri's pro-party, calling it outdated, and praised Milei's leadership as a fresh alternative. If you have kids under 18, you may want to hear this. The government just opened up applications for the 2025 Education Vouchers Program. Starting on the 21st of April and running through the 16th of May, families with kids enrolled in private schools that get at least 75% of their funding from the state can apply through the Mi Argentina app. To sign up, parents need to fill out a form with the child's school info, grade and level education, and the school has to confirm that the student is actively attending. The voucher works like a subsidy, helping families cover school expenses. And to close this edition, the Argentine artists Catriel and Paco Amoroso took the stage on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, bringing their unique fusion of trap, pop, and hip-hop to a massive audience. Over the years, they've teamed up with major names like Tini Esto, Lali Esposito, and Bizarrap, but the performance marked a major moment in their international journey. And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. Did you know that the Rorschach Argentina update is just one of many? We've got country updates and non-country updates, including the Arctic update about the area north of the Arctic Circle, the multilateral update about the world's major multilateral institutions, and the ocean update about the 70% of the world covered in saltwater. To check out the full list of updates, follow the link in the show notes. Nos vemos la próxima semana.